I never thought the day would unfold like this. It started like any other ordinary day, rushing around, a pile of tasks, and the usual small daily stresses. The morning at the office was hectic, and I was barely holding myself together. My to-do list was long, but there was nothing particularly unusual about it. Just another day, right? But then, I met him. I was rushing through the lobby of the office building, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a stack of papers in the other that I needed to deliver to accounting. I was so busy checking the meeting time on my phone that I collided with him. Literally ran into him. There he was, standing in the middle of the hallway, looking at his phone when my shoulder bumped into him. Papers scattered everywhere. Coffee spilled. It felt like time froze for a moment. He looked up in surprise but quickly regained composure and stepped forward to help. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice warm and sincere. I quickly replied, "No, it's okay," and bent down to pick up my papers. He bent down too, and we both reached for the same paper at the same time. I felt a little awkward, especially because I kept feeling like I had seen him somewhere before, but I couldn't place where. Maybe he was a client, or a colleague I had seen only once? He gave a faint smile, trying to be polite, but it was clear he, too, was unsure if I recognized him. "Let me help you with this," he said, handing me the last few papers. I just nodded and didn't pay much attention. After all, I was in a hurry. I softly said, "Thank you," and went on my way. But that encounter stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. My mind kept circling back to the question, who was he? Was he from HR? A senior manager I'd seen in a meeting once? I shook off the thought and got back to my work. I had too much to handle that day to spend time wondering about a random person I bumped into. But a few hours later, I found out. I was sitting at my desk preparing for a conference call when the office door opened. I looked up, expecting a colleague, but my heart skipped a beat when I saw him standing there. He was impeccably dressed, in a suit and tie that looked far too expensive for someone I had bumped into so casually. He smiled, and for the first time, I recognized him. Everything became clear. He was our new boss. "Hello, everyone," he said, his voice filled with confidence but not arrogance. "I'm James, the new director for this team. I look forward to working with all of you." I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. He's my new boss? The same person I had ignored earlier? The one I'd barely acknowledged while he was trying to help? My stomach churned with embarrassment. My face burned, not just because I'd ignored him, but because I was so wrapped up in my little world that I hadn't even shown basic courtesy. That wasn't like me. I prided myself on being polite to everyone, yet in that moment, I'd acted cold and indifferent. He had no idea who I was, which was a relief in a way, but it didn't make me feel any less guilty. I tried my best to focus on the meeting, but that small moment kept playing over and over in my mind. How awkward would it be to talk to him now? Would he remember me as the woman who barely acknowledged his presence? At the end of the meeting, he asked everyone to stay back for a few minutes for a quick introduction. My hands were sweaty. He turned to me first. "Hi, I didn't get a chance to introduce myself properly earlier. I'm James." I took a deep breath. "I remember," I said quietly, trying not to sound too embarrassed. I'm sorry about the other day. I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't realize who you were." His expression softened, and he smiled kindly. "No worries. It happens." But inside, I was berating myself. I knew he didn't take it to heart, but I felt terrible. I wanted him to know that I wasn't like that I wasn't rude by nature, but the words wouldn't come out. He moved on to talk to others, and I quietly slipped out of the room, hoping to escape the awkwardness. The rest of the day dragged on. I replayed that moment in my mind repeatedly. Why hadn't I just taken a moment to properly look at him? Would he think I didn't respect him? I knew I had to make it right. The next day, I saw him again. He was in the break room getting coffee, and I decided to take a deep breath and approach him. "Hi, James," I said, trying to sound casual. "I just wanted to apologize again for the way I acted that day. I really didn't mean it." He looked at me, a bit surprised, but his smile was kind. "Hey, it's really no big deal. Don't worry about it." But I knew it meant more to me than it did to him. After that, things were normal between us. Professional. But every time I saw him in a meeting or passing in the hallway, I couldn't help but remember that moment. I hoped that, over time, my work would speak louder than that first impression, and maybe, in some way, I could show him that I was more than that careless moment. Days turned into weeks, and I worked hard to improve that awkward first impression. I let my dedication and efforts speak for me. I volunteered for projects, met deadlines, and was always willing to help the team. Yet, a part of me still felt like I needed to do something personal, something to show James who I really was, and that I was more than one careless moment. One afternoon, when everyone was busy with their work, I decided to write James a thank you note. I wanted him to know how much I appreciated his leadership and efforts. I wrote, "James, it's an honor to work with you. I truly admire how you lead the team with such humility and confidence. I'm sorry our first meeting wasn't great, but I promise to work hard and meet your expectations." I wrote it on a small card and, after some thought, placed it on his desk. I didn't know how he would take it, but it was heartfelt. The next day, when I arrived at the office, James saw me and smiled. He walked straight to me and said, "Thank you for the note. It means a lot. Don't worry about first impressions. Your hard work and dedication are clear to me." His words lifted a weight off my shoulders. I realized he had judged me based on my work and character, not one moment of carelessness. After that, our conversations and professional relationship improved. Over time, he became not just my boss, but also a mentor. I learned so much from him, not just about work, but also about life. That incident taught me that small mistakes don't define our story. What truly matters is how we learn from them and the steps we take to make things right. In the end, I understood how much a simple apology and a genuine effort could change things. That was the lesson I carried with me forever.